Welcome to the SimGHOSTS Global Experience. Pocket Nurse has been supporting healthcare education, simulation, and patient safety since 1992 as a leading manufacturer and distributor of medical supplies and equipment for simulation and healthcare education. Pocket Nurse is a trusted partner in nursing, EMS, pharmacy, and allied healthcare education. Pocket Nurse is an authorized distributor of SimVS products, which you'll learn more about in today's video.
Hello everyone, my name is Greg Viss. I'm the developer of SimVS and just wanted to provide everyone with an overview of the system and also our new online learning options. So SimVS is a mobile clinical education platform where we simulate a number of monitor types which can be used to project to your students and create highly interactive case studies in different disciplines. We cover a number of monitor types and disciplines, as you can see here. So we have a defibrillator type, an ICU patient monitor, we have a fetal heart monitor, and the monitor type that we're most known for is our mechanical ventilator model, where we were the first mobile mechanical ventilator simulator in the world. We are cross-platform, so our applications work on both the Android platform and the iOS platform from Apple. The student applications are also available to work on mobile phones, and the student application licenses are free. So that will encourage, very low cost of introduction to get into it. What I'd like to do now is the system features common features across all the monitor types. So what I'd like to do is look at one monitor type, show you an overview of the different features, then we'll dive into the specific monitors after that. Again, you can see all the different monitor types. This is also in the lower left. You will see all the students that are connected to your system. So the way the system works is the instructor controls the student view and broadcasts different information over to the students that they'll respond to. So let's take a look at the defibrillator. When we open the app, we are immediately put into the library of scenarios. So we have extensive library of fully reviewed scenarios, multidisciplinary, and here you'll see some of them. So we have a number of cardiac scenarios, respiratory, pretty much every type of medical condition we cover in our different scenarios. We also group them by age groups. So you can see here, geriatric cardiac, geriatric respiratory, geriatric medical, newborn, OBGYN, labor and delivery, and also an extensive range of pediatrics. So you can, use this for all your ACLS training, PALS training, other conditions. Since we're in the defibrillator function, let's look at the chest pain scenario. So this launches us into the instructor editor function. So this is the instructor view. In the middle box on the left, you see how we organize the scenarios. We call this state-based physiology, where basically we are going to present different slices of physiology, and as you go through the cases, you will, can use those as your anchors, transition physiologies part to part. We go start, for instance, and then move it through there. When you load it, you see all the physiology. You hit run with changes. That sends it to the student monitor. The instructor also has the ability to toggle between controls and a view of the monitor that the student has. So now we're looking at the student view of the scenario. What's unique here in the defibrillator, so we can see that if we were to run a code scenario, they'd have full electricity, where they can, it works just like their defibrillator, and all their student choices are communicated to the instructors. Another feature on all the monitors is alarm types. So if the patient physiology is outside of the alarm parameters, the alarms will sound, and the numbers that are outside will flash. These can be controlled by the students when a scenario is running. The students can request different types of 12 lead or other types of information from the instructors. They can also log any medications that they're giving during the scenarios, and all this information appears back on the instructor's tablets. So now we'll go back to the instructor view. One instructor, if you're in a physical setting, would be able to control between 15 and 20 students, and that's dependent on the router and the communication which we supply in that setup. But online, one instructor could control the view to an unlimited amount of students. And with the students, you could run up to 6 different scenarios at the same time, independent of each other. So they have quite a bit of different views there. So we could take a look at this one. Now, one thing that we do have is that we have the pre-programmed scenarios, but instructors also have the ability to make their own changes on the fly. So for instance, here, we see all the different cardiac rhythms that we have. So we could transition to a different cardiac rhythm. We could adjust any of the vitals on the fly to indicate the patient status. And then when we take a look at the student tablet, we can see that those are now changed and reflect that. So many people prefer to run it on the fly, and some people use a pre-programmed or a combination of the two. We give you that flexibility to do it that way. So that was the defibrillator monitor type. So now let's go and take a look at the ventilator. So just as in the other modes, we go in the library, we launch a scenario. In this case, I've launched the overdose scenario. Everything here looks familiar in terms of the interface, but let's go and take a look at the ventilator tab where we can see our different variables here for the patient. And behind this is a sophisticated model of human lung performance. So with all our patients, we can adjust compliance and resistance. Just as before, we can adjust any of the variables on the fly. What the algorithm does is automatically calculates, the response of the lungs. So if we're in volume mode, we're delivering a set volume, the system will calculate the pressure. If we're in pressure mode, we're delivering at a certain pressure, the system will calculate the volume delivered. So that's all dynamic. We can see here our different modes of ventilation, but let's go and take a look at what those waveforms look like. Okay, so here is the dynamically drawn waveforms that are instantly responsive to any controls that we make. And so we can go back here. We have set up scenarios in this here. So we go to the media, and this feature is available in all modes as well. So in media, we could put different elements or images that would reinforce your case, such as 12-lead EKGs, X-rays, patient pictures. In this case, we have fully developed cases. I'll just give you an overview. So basically here, we have different parts of the case that we would project to the students. This is the intro, so they'll familiarize themselves with the patient. After they've done that, if they're ready for their question, we could do this. We give them the choice of 4 different options. And as with all simulation, we want to allow the students to make decisions and then see the effects of their decisions. So if they pick C, for example, or D, we could go here, and this would be the student view. So this doesn't look too bad on the ventilator side, but if you see in the lower left, we have different monitor types, so we can very conveniently toggle between the different monitor types. So here we're looking at the hemodynamics, and we can see that both our end tidal and our pulse ox are quite low. So that seems to be where the problem is with this patient. So the students could go and adjust that if they wanted to. They have the ability, just like in the defibrillator, to change any of the variables. And then once they've made their changes, those changes would be communicated over to the instructor who could implement them. Same thing, we have alarms. In the ventilator, we have high pressure alarms that'll instantly change the waveforms in the volume mode, which is needed for realistic training. You'll see here we have the oxygen button on the left. When I tap that, you can see in the upper right that the FiO2 went to 100. It's going to stay there for 2 minutes. which is what would happen in the real world if we're doing any oxygenation procedures or anything like that. Couple of other things here that we can take a look at. We have a trending feature where instead we can navigate part to part, but we can also set a trend where, perhaps we want the heart rate to decrease over a period of 1.5 minutes. We can set that trend, and now that would give a realistic change in the monitor when we looked at that. We can also see here in the lower left, that the student pressed oxygen. So that gives you an idea of how the student changes are communicated to the instructor. We have the ability to create lab values on the fly. So we can just decide what lab values we want to reflect for this patient, and then those changes are sent over to the student. So that's a quick view of the instructor, and we'll navigate through all the different parts. Let's go take a look at, for now, let's go take a look at the patient monitor. There's a couple of things I'd like to show you there. Again, our extensive library. We'll take a look at this chest pain scenario. Okay, so one additional thing, we have the labs. We saw that in all our scenarios, you have the ability to create checklists that correspond to the scenario. We have pre-populated, each one of our scenarios has a predefined checklist, as you can see here. Some are more extensive than the others. There's different formats. You can do yes, no, as we have here. You can create a scale. You could create a text input. So this is very handy that you can record it. All the decisions are time stamped, which comes in very handy for the debriefing. And then when a scenario is done, we can, tabulate the results. This can be saved electronically if you needed a permanent record of that student's scenario performance. So we'll just go to the monitor here, take a look at that. So you can see very similar to before. We have a few other variables. We have temperature. We also have arterial blood pressure. So let me go and show you how we would change waves in any of the modes. So we can go and change a wave here. I've just added an arterial blood pressure wave. So now you can see that red wave was just added. So very simple and intuitive controls. We tried to make the interface as clean as possible. Now, the last type that we'll take a look at is our fetal monitor. And scenarios, we're in here. So again, we'll take a look. So basically, let's go take a look at our monitor. You can see up on the top, we have the fetal heart rate. The tracings are starting here. We can control the speed. This is actually 5 times real life. And so these strips are 10-minute long strips. If we put it at 1x, it would take 10 minutes to go across the screen. But we can see on the top portion, the fetal monitoring, on the bottom portion, the contraction monitoring with a Toco belt is included with the system. At the very bottom, we see the mother's vitals there. And I'll just show you, these are for baseline variabilities, what we can adjust. And these are the standard fetal heart patterns, which we could adjust at any time. So that was a quick overview. What I'd like to show you now is our online connection, which is very simple. And you would decide as the instructor if you want to operate in router mode, which is basically, if you're in proximity to the students in a physical setting, or if you wanted to do server mode. When you select server mode, the instructor enters a password, the students enter a password, and you're instantly connected over the internet through the cloud on a secure connection. It operates just like what we saw. The two-way communication is enabled, and you can run the scenarios. And that's where it would be very handy for the students, would be able to download the application to their phones and be able to respond to the scenarios that way. So that was a relative quick overview. Where we'd be very happy to provide more detailed overviews of any of the monitor types that are interesting to you and answer any of your questions. And we look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks for watching. For more information, call 1-800-225-1600 or visit www.pocketnurse.com.